But never mind, let's talk about these Noah and the promises of God. Here are some lessons that we can learn from the parable of Noah and that story of the flood and everything else. The first one is don't miss the boat. Don't miss the boat. God is a God of second, third, fourth, fifth chances. Those who saw Noah building the boat, and you know that story, I don't need to go into it, do I? Okay, well, fine. This was a big boat. This was I don't know, it was big. You couldn't walk past it and not notice it. But they did nothing positive about it. They didn't do anything. It was so obvious, there's a boat here, something must be going on. They did nothing about it apart from abuse. But ultimately, you have to make a decision. You have to decide yourselves whether to get on the boat or not. And God has promised us Jesus, and he is always standing at that door knocking, waiting for us to answer the call. The parable of the rich man and Lazarus is a salutary lesson in reminding us not to leave it too late. Because there will come a time when God chooses to close that door. And with it, all those chances go as well. Those chances to accept him as Lord and Saviour. So in a nutshell, don't miss the boat. Don't play chicken with God. Get on the boat while you still can. That's the first one. Plan ahead. Plan ahead. It wasn't raining when Noah started building the ark. It wasn't raining. But God is always someone who looks ahead. He's always working towards certain milestones in history, mostly centered on around the birth and death and resurrection of Jesus, but also of a time to come, a time when there will be no more weeping. And God has promised that a time will come when all will be made right, and he wants us to be there when that happens. So what do we need to do in order to be there when that happens? The parable of the 10 bridesmaids. You know it well. 5 were ready, 5 weren't ready. They weren't prepared. They were caught unawares. And so they missed out on the wedding. And that reminds us that there are consequences of not planning ahead. It's a tricky one, this one. Stay fit. Stay fit. Noah was 600 years old when God asked him to build the ark. 600 years old. When you're 600 years old and someone asks you to do something that big, well, never mind 600 years old, 30 years old. But when you're 600 years old, you think, I can't lift a matchstick, never mind a plank of wood. There's lots of talk this day and age about the young. And I'm looking around and there are only a couple of young people in here that I can see. No, Charlie, you don't count anymore. Young in heart, absolutely. You've got kids now. They suck the life out of you, don't they? Yeah? The energy goes. Let's not devalue our elderly, because often in churches, they are the ones keeping the church afloat. But you can be fit without being young or old. It's not necessarily about that we need to talk about. There's more to fitness than just age. In God's world, in his world of love, he has promised that there are no favourites. There's no just the young or just the old. There's just believers and those who don't believe. And believers of all ages. And people stay fit. Believers stay fit by being close to God. By being close to God. That's how you stay fit. And believers do that by praying, by reading the Bible, by worshipping God, by being part of a community of God. So staying fit means being able to serve God no matter what your age. Here's another one. Don't listen to the critics. Just do the job that needs to be done. How many times did Noah have to put up with the jibes and the jokes about what he was doing? Loads of times, hundreds of times. You can imagine. It took years to build this thing, and every time someone walked past, they would tell him, "You're being stupid here. Don't do this." It makes no sense building a boat in the middle of dry land far away from sea. How are you going to get it from there to there? Etc., etc. But he kept on going because he knew there was a job that had to be done. How many times did Jesus put up with the abuse and humiliation on the cross? How many times have we failed to do what was right and proper, but chose not to because of the risk of criticism? But let us remember God's promise to us that he will always be alongside us when we are persecuted and abused for the sake of his Son. He will always be alongside us. Number 5, for safety's sake, travel in pairs. I mean, you know the story. The animals went in the ark 2 by 2. That's where that kind of comes from. It's a complete sideline. I was reading up on this and I thought it was only 2 pairs of animals went in, of every set. It wasn't. Unless I've misread it. It was 7 sets of clean animals and 1 set of unclean animals. That's just a sideline. Did you know that? Some of you going, yeah. Some of you I don't know. You might pick on me. In any case, go home and read it. It's in there. But for safety's sake, travel in pairs. Who doesn't like that footsteps poem? It's the one in the sand, the footsteps in the sand. Yes, it's beautiful, isn't it? It's lovely. It's a beautiful illustration, and it's really simple of our walk with Jesus. As the author looks down at the beach and they see these sets of footprints, and they notice that there's 1 set sometimes and another set has disappeared. And the answer to that missing set of footprints is that lovely thing. It's the time when Jesus chose to carry you. When Jesus chose to carry you. Which tells us this: with God, even if you are just one, with God there will always be you and Jesus and the Holy Spirit and the Father. You will never be alone. And if you're part of a church, look around. Look around. You will not be alone. God will never leave your side. He will never leave you on your own. Remember, the ark was built by amateurs. The Titanic was built by professionals. Can you change the world? Can you change the world just by loving others? The professionals will tell you you can't do it that way. And they're probably right. Maybe they're right. Maybe they're wrong. I don't know. But I do know this, that true change starts with loving that person. Loving those who are in peril. Loving those who are suffering. Loving those with no hope. Loving those because you want to make a difference. Love never fails. Love makes a difference in people's lives and their circumstances. I was surprised when we were doing our little tour around the promises, no one mentioned love. I thought that would be bang on there. Shocker. Love never fails. Big, big promise there, folks. You don't need a professional to make a difference, but you do need love. You do need love. And God has promised that his love will last beyond eternity. His love conquers all. His love is Jesus, and Jesus is God. Last one. No matter where you are, when you are with God, there will always be a rainbow waiting. In our Bible reading this morning, we get God repeatedly saying, I will never desert you. I'm never going to abandon you. Not you, not creation. He says it 3, 4, maybe 5 times. He tells us this. There is a reassurance to be had in the number of times he repeats that promise of his continued love for us. In troubled times, in traumatic times, in times of celebration, his love is always going to be there. And Jesus is God's gift of love that reminds us. Jesus said, my peace I give to you. My peace I give to you. And he said this, and we had one of them. I forget who said it now. Joanne, I don't know. I will always be with you to the very end of the age. I will always be with you to the very end of the age. That's a promise. That's a promise. So we've collected, I don't know, about 12 promises so far, when we started with none. So you're doing quite well, but we haven't finished yet. We're going to sing another song. We've looked at about, I don't know, a dozen probably promises. I want to just overload you with 7 or 8 more. Is that all right? Here they come. You won't be able to see them, but never mind. I'll read them out to you. Promise number 1, he will always be with you. Isaiah says this, so do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. He will be with you, and he will protect you. He will protect you. Even when I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no danger, because you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they protect me. And he will strengthen you. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. He will strengthen you. He will answer you. He will answer you. Call to me, he says, and I will answer you. That's in Jeremiah. Call to me and I will answer you. And I will tell you great and hidden things that you have not known. He will answer you. He will provide for you. He will provide for you. But my God shall supply all your needs according to his riches in the glory by Jesus Christ. He will provide for you. And he will give you peace. Jesus said, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. You will have peace. And the one we keep missing, he will always love you. I have loved you with an everlasting love. I've drawn you with unfailing kindness. I will always love you. Is there one promise above all these others? I think there is. I think it's a promise that all the others surround this one promise. You may disagree when you see it, but I think without this one, all the other ones don't quite match in. They don't embed in the way they should. I think this is it. And Jesus said, you are forgiven. Doesn't matter. You are forgiven because of what he has done. You're forgiven.